I've got the trailer hooked up with the brown chairs, which can only mean one thing. I'm off to have a good sit-down chat with someone about cars and have a look around their garage. Now this time, I'm meeting a guy who's probably best known for Top Gear, although I've known him for quite a long time before that. A small man with a big talent in driving and presenting and writing. He once grew a moustache and did look slightly like Freddie Mercury. His name is Chris Harris. I'm Jonny Smith, and this is The Late Break Show.
I've got a motley collection of cars, and I think they're quite private for me as well. It's only because it's you and I know you that I'm willing to do this.
Yeah.
Lots of people have said to me, can we have a video of some of your cars and some of your sheds and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's my business, which is totally against the way that social media works now, the way that car social media works. You not only do you open yourself up completely, you actually start to buy and sell cars that you didn't want to make yourself more interesting, don't you? That's what people are doing.
That's what they're doing. Yeah.
But I'm the opposite. For me, there's some stuff that I own that I haven't told you about because it's not valuable or special, but it's mine. You know, my 2CV isn't here.
No, it's not.
That was on the that's in another shed. That was on Top Gear.
That was on Top Gear.
I've got a photograph of me and Matt LeBlanc throwing eggs at each other in my 2CV. If you'd said that to me as a student when I used to watch friends stoned sitting on a sofa, I would have gone, that's never going to happen.
That's not going to happen. You can't even make that up.
They're personal things.
I'm really pleased that you agreed to this because I know that you are quite private about your cars.
Well,
most people broadcast that stuff.
Yeah,
and you're quite private about your own life, actually.
No, there's
outside of cars.
There's nothing about my life on Tinternet. There never will be. There'll never be any pictures of my children or anything like that because it's their life to live, and they should have the best possible opportunity to do it without being sullied by their father's bad behaviour on television. I went through a period of being a bit of a shrill and you know, making noise about. I bought a Gallardo at the age of 27. In Autocar magazine, and I did that to make noise about myself.
Mm-hmm. So it was calculated.
It was totally calculated. Of course it was. I wanted to buy one, but I thought, how do I make a difference? How do I make myself look different to everyone else out there? Mm-hmm. And I think in many respects I created the monster, didn't I? And that's what everyone else is doing now. I don't, you know, all these guys that go out and buy cars to make noise about themselves, I'm not going to sit there and tusk because I did exactly the same thing, and they're doing it in a much bigger, better way than I ever did.
I wasn't expecting a wheelhouse.
So for me, sheds are there to just stop stuff rusting in the winter. In the summer, they can be out most of the time, and you can just have them parked around your driveway if you've got some space. So I've got a couple of sheds dotted around, which just have crap in. And also, they've always got other stuff in from mates. Like this, there's an Evo 6 here.
I was wondering what this was.
No, I don't own that, but that'll be, you know, someone's probably gone, if you've got a space in one of your sheds, Monkey, can I stick that there? I always quite like going into a shed, you never quite know what you're going to find. Like there'll be normally it's crap, but sometimes you go, I remember going in once and there was just a mint right-hand drive 2.7 lightweight, one of the early build cars. And I'd forgotten that I'd said to a mate, you could put it in there. I'm like, ooh, that's a bit nice, pouring over it.
That's a bit special.
So there's a 512 there, that's quite well. We did a video on that years ago. I bought that in 2013. I don't think I'll sell it. My daughter absolutely adores it.
Does she?
And my late mother adored it as well. And it's everything I want in an F car because it's absurd. It's 12 cylinders. It's flat 12 as well, which is a very different thing. It's a cool engine. It's mechanically interesting. The whole package is interesting. The idea of having the cooling pack behind the driver because you've got that very wide car because everything's behind the driver.
Yeah.
And it's also got a massive boot in the front because there's no rads. It's a real challenge to drive. It's not very valuable. Its value probably peaked a couple of years ago during the crazy times, but it's right back down. It's probably 50, 60 grand car, I would have thought, which I know is a lot of money, but compared to a £300,000 Pista, that delivers a lot more to me for a Ferrari experience. It sounds fantastic. It's got a big gated manual gear change. It's got all the things. It ticks the Ferrari boxes, okay?
Yeah.
So everything I own has to have a purpose. It needs to serve a purpose. So that rally behind there is one I bought ages ago. And I ran it on the road for a bit. It's now mossy and horrible. It's actually in good nick. Shell's all good. But it was going to require a bit of work to get it right. And then I found another one like you always do, which we'll have a look at in a minute, which is just around the corner. And that one was so good that I used that one. But that's there as a sort of rolling spare parts. I find that if you've got quite rare stuff, finding bits for them can be a real problem and can be very expensive.
Oh
So
my
you're better
God.
off actually buying another. If you can find a donor, just keep the donor and have a rolling spare parts thing. So I've got everything I own that's a bit weird. There is a duplicate somewhere.
Is there?
Try to.
Okay,
so
okay.
I've got 2 Citroen AXs, I've got 3 205 XSs, I've got 2 rallies, I've got a...
This is why you've got sheds all over the place.
Yeah, so all the sheds are full of crap. And so I've got a written off E28 M5 that's actually got... the shell's gone, but I've got spare engine, gearbox, everything. So when the cars get tired, I can... Because they're cars, for me, ownership isn't for a couple of years for these things, they're forever.
Yeah.
And I want to run them as long as, until the government says I can't run them, I will. Cars that we own are very personal.
Yeah.
There's reasons you buy them.
Yeah.
Normally they're based around man maths and being drunk on eBay at night.
I've done that.
And so we've all done that. And I don't want to walk around one big, beautiful room of my own cars. The idea of sort of swilling a whiskey and congratulating myself it's not where I'm at. I don't want to do that. So I've got 3 or 4 little units that are dotted around.
And you just keep stuff dry.
And they're normally full of bird shit. And there's one unit I've got which definitely every year costs more to rent than the value of the contents.
Right.
Definitely.
I've got a few of those. Yeah.
It's full of. It's got AXs and 205s, and it's got one old Range Rover. Total value of the contents must be $2,000.
Right.
It's absolutely terrible what's in there, and it's full to
AX GT.
There's an AX GT that actually is going to get restored this winter. It's the oldest one that's in the UK. It's a very early car. It's on an E plate. That's really rare. And it's got the spoiler delete kit and steel wheels. Very few of those came in like that. What I don't have is a modern, really fancy supercar, because that's a 720S McLaren would be the one I'd want, but they've come down in value so much. Maybe that's possible in the next couple of years. But I don't really get any joy from driving them on the road anymore. I just feel frustrated. Like I've got that 911 Touring.
Yeah, which is lovely.
That's about as far as I don't. That's already too fast for the road for me. Mm-hmm. And anything more than that, or anything less practical, is beyond what I would actually use.
So is there a deal to be done for the Pursuit Platinum Edition?
No, there is not. Stop! Don't take the piss out of caravans. They're very good things. This is a 205 Rally. Bought this a few years ago.
This is great.
It's the Holy Grail. I used to read about these.
Peugeot Talbot Sport.
I used to read about these in car magazines, and in just the way that I wanted a 512 TR, just the way I wanted some other cars I've owned, I wanted a 205 Rally. So eventually, when I could get hold of one, I had to. And this thing, it just is so immediate. It's so ultimately not fast, and so exciting at going not fast. That I think is the key to motoring going forwards, is being exciting
it's
and
the
not having to go super fast.
Yeah. That upswept exhaust as well.
I just love the upswept
Pointing right up there.
The Group N exhaust. There's more carb than engine. I love that.
There is way more carb.
It looks quite Alfa Romeo. If it wasn't transverse, you'd think that was quite 60s Alfa, wasn't it? Just loads of carb.
Yeah.
Because the actual donk is pretty ordinary.
I was going to say, what it breathes through is what's really important here.
Yeah. It looks like a sort of a chavved up, throttle-bodied AX from Max Power from the early 90s, doesn't it?
It does.
Basically, put your foot on the clutch and try and engage first gear and remind yourself what a great gear shift that is.
Oh, that's
Immediately,
nice.
do you not remember?
Yeah.
How good is that?
It's really good. I forgot how Spartan they are.
There's nothing.
There really is nothing going on in
It's
it.
under 800 kilograms, this car.
Is it?
Yeah. Don't press that, it won't go down again. Now, the genius of this, the only problem is that as they get older, these 205s, the needles bend. So if anyone's got some unbent needles I could have, I'll take the dash apart and put them in.
You bought this in from France?
This came in from France, yeah. So, and actually, I was doing the deal on the phone. He was down at the dealership. I was about to end the conversation, and I was walking back up the road in Soho, and I walked up the road and I saw someone stealing my Ducati.
What, genuinely?
Yeah, they were nicking it, trying to nick one of those gangs with the angle grinders.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's a nice Ducati. It's another anniversary. Oh, that's mine. So I ran towards them and shouted, "Stop that!" And they tried to. He was being pushed by they angle grind the steering lock away. And there's another guy on a back.
Scooter,
he had a BMW GS who's pushing it, like the smaller GS, the 650. He was trying to push it with that. So I ran in front of the bike, thinking that was a good thing to do. Looking back, not the best thing I could have done. The guy on my bike then tried to wrestle it. I tried to wrestle him and get the bike away from him. He tried to wrestle me back. The Ducati fell over as we were tussling, and smashed all the wing mirrors and everything off the side, and hit the clutch case, and it was really ugly. And I thought they'd run away. No. The guy then tried to fight me. The guy that was on my bike tried to fight me, but he wasn't very big. Well, I'm not very big, but he wasn't very strong. And the guy on the GS put it on the stand and came after me with a hammer.
What?
And there was like 20 people having lunch in Soho.
In the middle of lunch?
No one fucking stopped to help. They just all went, oh, let's see what's going on here then.
What? You kept the bike?
Yeah, they then did a runner. And I'm just stood there thinking, oh, great, just avoided being hit with a hammer. And I went back, this is the genius of Matt LeBlanc. And Matt loves his bikes. He's better on bikes than cars. He really knows his bikes. Big Ducati man.
Yep.
So I pushed what was left of my bike into MV Studios, where you do all the voiceovers, into the entrance area, pushed the bike in, a bit shaken up. But Matt comes out and he goes, yeah, you should have had some of those Ducati performance levers. Those are too long, those ones. And then just walks back inside again with a grin on his face.
Bloody hell.
So that was a weird day. But that was the day that this...
That's the day you bought this?
Yeah, I always remember that day.
Are you still on talking terms with Matt LeBlanc and Chris Evans?
And
Rory?
The former, very much so.
Yep.
The latter's not so much so.
No.
I'm in contact most weeks with Matt. He's a good buddy.
Yeah.
He's a great lad. He's a genuine car enthusiast. Always wants to know what the latest stuff is. He loves his cars. He's always out and about in his cars. He's just bought a TR actually.
Has he?
Yeah, he's just a great bloke.
You are pals.
Yeah, I'm not in a boastful way. I don't make anything of it. He's just a really, really good friend. He's been a really good friend to me. It was a difficult time, and I needed someone with his level of experience to help me navigate what it was like to try and resurrect a brand. You know, he has that professionalism and that level of experience to help you do that. Sort of tier one suppliers to the industry to sponsor the channel. That was Chris Harris on cars as opposed to drive. And Patreon had come out of nowhere, and we were earning quite a lot of money out of Patreon through everyone's generosity and genuinely spending everything and more on the films. And we just started to make it work, and I got a phone call from this guy, hello, it's Chris Evans. And I went, what, that's in off the telly? And he went, yeah, he goes, I've got the job on Top Gear, and everyone told me to give you a ring.
That must have been a bit weird.
It was, given what happened afterwards. It was a very strange situation. And we had a 20-minute chat about stuff, which sort of meandered and didn't go anywhere. And at the end of it, he went, I'm not offering you a job, by the way. I'm not, I just thought I'd phone you. And I went,
what? Great.
And I didn't hear anything for a long time and assumed there was nothing going to come of it. And then you see the newspaper stories and all the rumours about who's going to present it. And I assumed, well, I'm not on the radar then. That was an odd phone call. Why did you phone me?
Yeah.
I got a phone call from a producer saying, we'd like to screen test you. So they went to the screen test like everyone else.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did as well. We all did these screen tests.
I did do the screen test, yeah.
And then I got a very nice email saying, we don't think you're right for the show. We think it's not for you. And I wasn't that gutted because I had so many other disappointments. And also I was unsure, the benefit of hindsight, I was unsure as to whether anyone could actually do it, whether you could take over from the other three. But we'd actually we were in quite deep into a potential project with Red Bull. So Red Bull TV was about to launch, and we'd been over in America doing some bits and bobs with a pilot for a show for them, which was really exciting. I remember phoning Neil and going, I'm not doing that, we've still got Red Bull, we're sorted. And 2 days later, Red Bull wrote us an email out of the blue saying, we're not going to do this. So all the wheels fell off. It's like all these things, isn't it? So, but you know, pick yourself up very quickly.
Yeah.
Back to YouTube. So I spent having abandoned all the plans for YouTube.
Just going full
went
throttle
straight back to YouTube.
Yeah.
Plans, get out there, meet people, get money in. Let's get this sorted out, Nilo. This is what we're going to do. We've tried everything else, got it all sorted. I get a phone call from Top Gear again, going, yeah, actually, we might have made a mistake. We think we might want you on the show.
Oh my gosh.
And that was tricky.
Is that your caravan?
No, it's not. It's a
That's a Capiro.
Capiro.
That was a car.
That's a Capiro Dogger.
Top Gear being Top Gear. The limelight. You're in the limelight. You can't escape.
I don't like the limelight. I'm very honest about that.
I was going to ask you about that.
I keep my head down. Being short actually really helps because when you walk around, you look at the ground like I do, and fewer people recognise you. So all of that stuff is a negative byproduct for me, but it doesn't mean I don't want to be involved in making a TV show about cars. So I wrote openly and said openly that anyone that did Top Gear after the other three was psychotic, and I stand by that. It's been a pretty bumpy ride, if I'm honest with you. I'm really glad I did it. I did it because the 17-year-old me would have been profoundly disappointed if I hadn't given it a go. If someone had offered you the chance to do it, you have to give it a go. I had to. And Top Gear is a complicated brand because it has a very interesting legacy that's completely dominated by its previous presenters, of whom I have great respect for. I really do. But I wanted to try and make it ours. I think we're getting there now. But
I think you have.
But it was a bumpy ride. That the first series of Chris Evans was not a good experience for any of us. Actually looking back, there are some films in that I'm quite proud of that I think were much better than people gave them credit for. But once a population wants to hate something, you're in trouble. And I've never experienced hate like it, if I'm honest with you. Was
it tough?
Oh, it's brutal. Properly brutal. I've got thick skin. But if you're waking up every day to hundreds of direct messages from people just going, you're shite, you're not Jeremy, you're whatever. And when that first season broadcast, I thought 4 or 5 episodes in, I made up my mind, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going to stop immediately. Because I can't do this. I can't handle the abuse. The show isn't as good as I wanted it to be, and it was tough. And then I realised I couldn't walk away from it because I'd pretty much committed career suicide. I'd created a little small hub of sort of super hardcore petrolhead followers, and they felt that I'd abandoned them and sold out. So they'd lost me, and they'd gone, you can piss off, monkey, so you've sold out. The general entertainment audience hated me because I wasn't as funny as Clarkson, and I'm not. So I'd managed to put I'd been very clever all my career and positioned myself where I knew I was going to get a bit of love, and I'd made a brave decision to do something different and got it badly wrong. So the only thing to do was try and stay and get it back on its feet. And kudos to Matt LeBlanc and to Rory and Alan Clare. I think we did, but you're never going to get the recognition, I think, for how good some of those films were because there was this general hate for it.
The Chris Evans thing it was a bit strange.
A bit strange? You weren't there, mate. I'm not going to go into it too much. It was utterly bizarre. Yeah. I almost can't remember it.
You're going to write a book one day, surely? Or just a really long blog? You probably haven't got the patience for a book.
Some of it you couldn't write. It was absolute madness.
Really?
Oh, some of it was absolute madness. Yeah, it was bonkers.
I just think, from my perspective, whenever anyone asked me about it, to me it was just like, that's the fundamental difference between someone that likes cars and has the money to buy cars and someone that is an authority on cars. And that's where you sit.
I'm not going to go into it on a personal level, but I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying. You do really have to live and breathe that subject. You've got to be the object. You've got to be what you say you are on television, or you will get found out quite quickly.
You will.
And I do love cars, and I don't present shows about gardening or other stuff that I quite like.
Which I think is a massive shame. I'd love to see you on a gardening show.
But I don't, because I don't know enough about them to sustain it and to answer the questions and to basically to bear up to the public scrutiny. And I've learned that the hard way. It's mental health awareness time, and it got me, absolutely got me. But it didn't get me at the time. It took a while for the lag effect of how bad it was to get to me, and I got some help in the end.
Was it always a war of mental attrition?
Just broke me down. Yeah. People that know me know I'm a pretty tough cookie, but after a while, if it catches you at a bad moment, if a few other things in your life go south, then the abuse, and it is abuse, it's not criticism. By the time people are just sending you messages, not even on the back of content, just saying, you're a prick, you've ruined Top Gear for me, I'll never forgive you. Once they're doing that, that is abuse. And if you're in a good place and the sun's out and everyone and the rest of your life is rosy, you can see that and you can ignore it. Or, as is more likely the case, you won't see it because you won't go looking for it because your life's so busy and positive. You don't need to look at the messages. Yeah. But when you're sat there with a glass of whiskey one night, oh, woe is me, and you read the messages and you're like, So I did pick up the phone, go and see someone, and I had to sit down. And do you know what? I'm still doing that now, not because I'm in a really bad place, but because I need it, because it's relentlessly negative. I mean, and it's negative everywhere. But you have to always, even when times are bad, you have to stop and go, I'm still much more fortunate than 99.9% of the population. I have a great life. I love what I do, but I'll never be able to reconcile the fact that it's a show about cars that generates so much hate. Mm-hmm. And I think like you, I'm quite proud of the fact that I clambered up through the ranks, started on the magazines, and I'm that sort of journalistic background, I think, has stood me in pretty good stead. Allows a little bit of rigour, and I do have confidence in what I say about a car. I've got no confidence about standing in a TV studio because I'm crap at that. I've no confidence in reading an autocue. I can't do that. I never will be able to. But
I can't do.
But I've got a lot of confidence in getting in a fast car, driving it down the road, and telling you how it behaves. I'll always have confidence in that because.
But you're also you can be quite prickly. Like if you don't like something, you really.
Well, you were taught that, weren't you?
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Whereas I think the current generation of journalists / influencers want to keep manufacturers happy. That's not your job. Your job is to tell it as it is.
Yeah.
And don't worry about getting invited on the next launch, because if you get a reputation for being valuable to an audience, they have to invite you back.
I think this is probably the best looking M car out there by a mile.
Oh, I love it. It's all hunkered down, wide, aggressive.
Yeah, sure.
I honestly think this is their standout product at the moment. It's sad that it's come to an end, and I keep seeing the new M135i and thinking,
yeah,
this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
I don't think they're collectors' cars in the future, because I don't really believe in trying to hunt that stuff down. But the DNA of this car, surely people will be hunting for this. Rear-wheel drive, loads of power, bit leery, for a long time to come. And it's got a manual gearbox, this one. And, Jonny, clear glass. Had to specially order that.
Really? So non-gangster spec?
Yeah, there's very few out there. I had to specially order the man from BMW. And there was a quirk on the spec. I wasn't allowed something. There was an argument. They said, well, if you go for clear glass, you really can't have this if they don't allow it. I'm like, I don't care. I just don't want gangster glass on any of my cars.
I think it's ironic that the cheapest M product is probably the most desirable.
Yeah.
And the simplest.
All I've changed the suspension, so it's got different springs and dampers, because the ride height was a bit too high anyway, but also I've not got the adaptive dampers on it, and the ride was way too harsh for me. I'm an old man. So we've taken a load of spring rate out, and we've put a much more sophisticated damper on. It's Bilstein.
Yeah.
And it totally transforms the car. We've got a load more traction. Pilot Sport 4S tyres for the winter, they're brilliant. Yeah. These are the optional M performance wheels. I can't remember the designation numbers, but I like them. They're the ones they're off the CS.
They look really good. Did you always work with cars, or did you do another job first?
No, I didn't. I loved cars, and I was academically useless. And I went to Oxford Polytechnic to do something, but was no interest to me at all. So I just drank and played sport. And in the holidays, I used to go and do work experience at Autocar, largely because I think my parents or family members just said, you've got to do something. You can't just be itinerant all your life.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, back then, and you'll probably have felt the same, if you were into cars but you didn't have a group of friends that liked cars, the only way you could really live your passion was through car magazines. There was no internet.
No.
There were you could have some videos, but there weren't many. The Duke catalogue was pretty much bought out by that stage anyway.
Yeah.
So to finally walk into a room and to meet a load of people that had the same passion as me was one of the most profound moments of my life. And these guys were my heroes. Frankel, Sutcliffe, Cropley, all these people were my heroes. My heroes weren't footballers. They may have been cricket players at the time, but I had no chance of meeting them. The irony. And I remember walking in to the office. In fact, I remember getting there to do the stint and have to be there at 9:30 for my first day's work experience. And I saw Steve Cropley drive in a 728i E38 BMW, which was his long-termer, I think, and just thinking,
oh yeah,
I've just seen God. Patrick Fuller, the editor, who has done as much for me in my career as anyone, I would have thought. If you're watching this, Patty, thank you. He did give me a job eventually. It was mega, and I loved Autocar, and I got there, and I discovered a work ethic. I had no work ethic at all. I was given a column on Autocar, which was quite controversial at the time, because a columnist on Autocar had been there normally 50 years and had grown roots, and the idea of giving the young idiot a column, I think, was controversial. But that was a chance to find a voice.
Yeah.
And once you found a voice, I think then you're much more comfortable. A few people have been muttering about where's this all going, and I realised that I wasn't really going anywhere. I was never going to have an incremental step up in a career as such, and it wasn't about money. It was more about ownership, emotional ownership of what I was doing, because I felt, and I think I've been vindicated now, I felt that the shift in our space was around the power of the individual versus the power of the brand, and I mean media brands, car magazine brands. Increasingly, as the internet grew, readers and consumers were identifying with the individuals that wrote as much as they were the titles in which they wrote.
Yeah.
I met JF Musial, who remains a great mate of mine, and he just randomly said, we've got some money from YouTube, they want to start doing some longer form content.
That was really cool, the stuff that you did on the drive.
Like all these things that actually work out, they never last as long as you think they did at the time. People think that Drive went on for 4 or 5 years.
But you put everything into it, I bet.
We did a film a week for 18 months.
Yeah.
And they weren't just sort of out selfie films, they were proper out, cameras, Neil would edit it. We were absolutely broken. But it felt, sometimes you're aware that that's your moment to have a go. Yeah. And that's when you'll get recognised. No one will ever give me an opportunity like that again. And I just said to Neil, let's run with this. It shows you that my thinking's fairly consistent on ownership, and I think you're the same. I think it's very difficult in the sort of modern media environment when individuals do become as important as the brand in which they work. Yeah. When you don't own any of it. And it's not about greed, it's not about money, it's about just feeling that you've got a bit of control and that you can be proud of it. Yeah. And it's not someone else's. Yeah. So it's a bit, it's like driving a press car versus driving your own car. If you drive around in a press car and you exude that kind of presentation that it's your own car, it just doesn't work.
Well, I gave an Aston Martin back this morning.
It's not yours, is it?
No, it was lovely, but it wasn't mine.
I would rather drive my own shit car than someone else's really nice car.
Was it the beginning of this year you bought this car?
I bought this a year ago, last summer. So the thinking behind it was I've always had a nice estate car for my kids and the dog. And what was a 40, 50,000 pound car became a 100,000 pound car. Yeah. And the last estate car I had, which is the best car I've ever owned, was an E63S estate. Yeah. Clear glass, blue, Desenio leather, ceramic brakes. Yeah. And I remember it. And it was a gorgeous car, really fast. And that was, again, it was a deal, a lease thing. When it went back, I was going to get an RS6. I was going to order an RS6. And I worked out that the leather I wanted and the wheels and the brakes were £15,000. And I thought, and stop, this is out of control for what this car does. It just basically ended up with a dog eating the back of it and children throwing sweets around. Yeah. And I was car and classicing one night. Yeah, as we do. As you do. And I saw this and I thought, well, that's less than the wheels and leather and brakes on the car that I was going to order. Why don't I get one of those? So this is a 525i shell, a late one on an N, that someone's put a 3.6 M5 engine in. So they never had those. All the Tourings were 3.8s. So but 3.6 actually is a nicer engine, I think. So it's 3.6. It feels like it's got some different cams in it to me, this, because it's quite cammy. It's nothing like as torquey as the thing next to you. And it's heavier. Yeah. But it's a manual gearbox, estate car. It's great. And do you know what? And you're probably like me. I quite like turning up to fancy places in cars like this. Fancy places and fancy people. I used to do it all. I had a Mercedes 123 that was estate that was 4 colours. Because the bin men reversed into it and wrote it off. And I got, all one side was different colours. Blue door, white door, burgundy front wing. And I was on a job where we had to go to the Harrods airport thing at Luton. Oh, yeah, that fancy one at Luton. Yeah, so they take the car off you and then you just walk onto the aeroplane. Well, anyway, I turned up in my 123. The bloke just looked at it. And as I was getting out, he said, oh, do you want me to park? I went, oh, yeah, okay. Just so you know, the central locking doesn't work. You've got to get out, and then you've got to go around the other side and lock it. And it was too much information. And if you reach on the back of the lever, you can get syphilis. Yes, isn't it? It's like, he just went, do you know what? Just put it over there. And I went, yeah, I'll do that. I've got a little present for you. Is it a mug? Come on. Can I have one of these is it a car pervert mug? It isn't. I can get you one. Oh. I know people. But actually, don't think this is not massively glamorous. I'm going to give you the choice of 2. Go on. First choice, Gen 2 997 GT3 RS. Yep. Or small but beautifully formed
205 GTI in a very nice colour. You probably know that colour.
That's Santorini green, isn't it?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
143 scale?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's a very obvious choice for me. It's the 205.
Is it?
Yeah, because I've already got that one.
Have you?
Well, I tell you what, I can be really arsey. I've got that model, and I've got the super limited edition, of which they made 20 of the race car that we used in the 24-hour Nürburgring in 2010, with my name on the side of it, with Walter Rall's name. So I've got that, and I've got the race one, but I haven't got that. 205s, aren't they spectacular cars?
They've got a very nice pure shape to them.
When we're back, we haven't got time now, but when we move into the coach-built future, which I think we both agree we're going to go to, which is going to be a sort of shared underpinnings, there'll be a standardised format
EV skateboard.
Yeah, whatever it is, and you put your own body on. I think a lot of people will choose to have their little car look like that.
Would you do that? Would you have
205 is the definitive.
An EV 205 bodied.
That's the definitive small car shape to me. It's the shortness of the rear overhang that gets you.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's a great looking car. Thank you very much.
That's all right. How many cars have you actually had?
Just trying to lure me into
That's a question.
into subject matter. Right, this is the one car that's actually done me all right. So I effectively gave, at the time, Gordon Brown my club sport.
I mean, I won't ever forget that.
He told the story deadpan to a room of people in a fancy hotel as a guest of Mercedes AMG at the Spa Grand Prix.
That's right.
I remember thinking, this has got out of control, I'm going to bed now.